As their CEO is coming out and giving his side of the story, but it's mostly coping and lies. We're going to get into it today on The Legal Mind, so we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and specifically an attorney with almost a decade of experience in corporate law, dealing with corporate situations. And one reason why I'm doing this review for you today is I have been on the other side of the table interpreting these corporate statements, or even working with CEOs to create corporate statements and what you can say and put out there. Now, this is an interview that was done with Fox just today, so let's get right into it.
I go this route instead of, as people say, try to just settle Brian's collection and move on and make everyone forget it. Was that ever an option?
And that's what I said, by the way, from the beginning. I said this is something, if they had any corporate common sense, this is, of course, the CEO, Eamon McNeff, if they had any real experience and know-how and actually wanted to deal with this, they would have seen this coming a mile away, the publicity nightmare. As we're going to see here, they really didn't even have to pay the $200K because they're actually saying, hey,
they
now
could have just given them the stuff back.
Come down to a number around $100K. So they're saying, okay, $100K. Now that is a lot for an individual, but for a company, come on, just pay that out. The amount you've now had to incur because of this is far beyond that in value. It absolutely.
I think it might destroy their company, if you want me to be honest. Like, having something like this happen, especially whenever it goes like, for example, if it was only like one individual store that was doing this and it wasn't in corporate, then I don't think people would really care and like hold the company accountable. But the fact that the CEO is directly involved, you have the religious angle with it as well, it just looks really, really, really bad.
Was not worth it. And by the way, let's also look at his body language here. He's got the slumped shoulders. He's kind of got that, thousand-eyed stare, having gone through all of this bad PR. I mean, he's absolutely defeated. Tail between his legs right here.
Oh, we've been working to try and work with Mr. Mansell for a good little while. We've asked for documentation as far back as a year ago. But we continue to reach out to try and, get towards a resolution with the Mansell family.
This is all a lie. They're lying.
This matter.
And
okay, so let's stop there with documentation. This is a key BS move of corporate. This is how they move the ball here.
They're trying to. They sent him some sort of correspondence a year ago, and they're using that correspondence, and it's being reframed as if that correspondence declares intent that they want to give the stuff away. That's what I'm guessing.
They say, oh, we didn't have documentation. Well, that's not true. You even see in Reckless Ben's documentary that they had it itemized out. They, in fact, had a lot itemized out. What they probably wanted was very specific documentation. They say, okay, we want to see the actual boxes. We want to see pictures. We want to see the serial numbers. And this is a way that companies try to shift the blame. That doesn't mean there wasn't an inventory. That just means it wasn't what they wanted. And a lot of times companies will ask for extreme levels of documentation just because they know it's going to be a problem for you to produce that. They know you can't produce that.
The process is the punishment.
Especially if it's not in your possession. So that is a corporate weasel word situation right out of the gate, already starting off deceptively. Before we go any further,
this is exactly something that this is also why big companies will sometimes lobby for more regulation. It's to make markets harder to get into. Like, basically, they are leveraging their position as having more resources in order to make decisions and to act on those decisions to take advantage of other people.
I'm a lawyer, so obviously I like money. And if you guys are looking for some extra cash and you want a way to make cash that's completely legit, you guys should check out Free Cash. It's a registered German company. This is not a scam. And let me break down exactly how this works so you understand. So this involves games and surveys, and it works with these games, for example, to help them find new users. The apps and the games are willing to pay for those new users because a lot of the users end up actually liking the game and investing.
There's no way they're getting their money back, right? There's no way.
lot of time in that game and even paying for things
it's a new
on
market.
those games. Free cash helps
no way,
out by
right?
putting some of the money that they make back in your pocket. So you're getting back what you're getting from those games. It's simple. If you already like playing app games on your phone, you already like doing surveys, you have no problem with that. You might as well sign up and try it, as you can make a completely free account with just an email and a password. It's not a way to get rich quickly. This isn't a way to make a bunch of money. It's just a way to make a little bit back and to get a little bit of actually free cash.
Should try
Once
one of these
again,
on
it's
stream.
completely free to try. You can scan the QR code that has come up right here, and you can click the link in the description as well as in the pinned comments. Check it out and make some free cash with freecash.com.
You and Mr. Mansell ever talk directly one-on-one?
Not as of yet. I have sent direct messages to the Mansell family and to Mr. Mansell specifically, seeking to have a sit-down meeting, meet at the table, and go over all the documentation that we have, and to be able to
probably the last week
talk through. And from our side of things, if there have been any missteps through the transition of the store, we want to make things right. We want to do what's right by the customer.
I don't believe that for the second. I think they want to do what now is on them because of bad
they're trying to get out from under this.
PR. I think this is at this point not something because they want to do what's right for the customer. If they wanted to do what's right, they would have settled this
video
before.
wouldn't have happened.
They would have brought them to the table before. They would have gotten a professional involved. They would have hired a mediator themselves and got this done. Once again, he brings up documentation.
They also probably would have fired the franchise owner that told them that they weren't going to honor the contract that they co-signed on. Like, I mean, that's really it.
They should not be trying to nickel and dime him. They should just be paying it out and getting this done with.
But all we asked for was documentation, and every time we asked for that up to this point, we seem to kind of then lose the connection.
And that's intentional on their part.
So you've offered Brian the inventory of sets that was in the store.
Yeah, whatever was left over, we've offered that on multiple occasions.
They're obviously just trying to throw the kitchen sink at him to try to get him to just stop the pressure. And honestly, I think that's a bigger reason to keep the pressure up, because it shows that they're obviously really hurting from this.
And then, like if there was anything that had been done that was untoward by the previous franchisee, if that individual had sold more than they let on and did not pay Mr. Mansell, we've offered to compensate him for the loss of the compensation that should have been given to him. So we've tried to make multiple offers, and hopefully we'll be able to get them to the table so we can discuss it.
Now, this is trying to shift the burden here. I don't think they actually made good faith offers before this. I do not think that they came through and said that. They're trying to sound very reasonable. They're trying to make
they're saying like we did this before, but before could mean 3 weeks ago or 1 week ago, not 3 months ago or 1 year ago, whenever this problem started. So they're trying to say that and then be ambiguous about when it happened.
Sound like Mansell's being unreasonable, but at this point, there's no way I believe that they made a.
Well, it's actually really simple, right? I mean, all they would have to do is just present the email or the the chain that obviously would be preserved because it would be correspondence the company made with somebody, especially with this amount of money. They would have this on file. So if this was actually true, they could just simply present this evidence. They're not doing that, because it doesn't exist, because it was recently manufactured so they could reframe it as if this was their plan all along.
Real offer here to actually pay him out what he's owed and return what is owed to him. I don't think that's legitimate. I think they're now saying that. I think that's the position they now have to take because publicity is totally against them.
Exactly.
This is all over the internet, but I don't think this is a position that they had before this.
As far as offering Brian
it was obvious that they were trying to take advantage of it and basically just like drag this guy, bleed this guy out in court, and then keep his stuff. I'll be right back. Give me a second. Okay. I'm back. Relax. Excuse me. Okay. 430K raised in the GoFundMe. Good.
Tori, have you gone through the store, figured out what was part of his collection, taken inventory and shown him that inventory to offer that?
So again, as this
look at the body language, he like his eyes darted up and he was looking around, right? Note all those things because those go a lot towards where their position is coming from. I think they're definitely panicked and they're
on the ropes.
Situation unfolded, and as additional investigations have continued to evolve, so we could find out.
He's using passive language to downplay it.
Where there was a miscommunication. There was some initial findings and discovery of like, hey, these seem to match some of the things that were being stated, but we don't have any indication otherwise. We were able to determine some other indicators later. And so all of those were set aside to say, hey, these may match. So let's set them aside in case, like he can, like we can work together. Those then were offered to him and the initial offer was rejected. But then as we've continued...
Those were offered to him and the initial offer was rejected. It's crazy how dishonest these people are. What if your initial offer was $1? Well, then I would have rejected that too. But you're framing it in an ambiguous and vague way that makes this passive language seem like it's uncertain of what's going on. Like it was like $10,000. Yeah, it's crazy how manipulative these people are with language and how many people, this is the big problem with education and the fact that a lot of people don't understand English very well, is that they don't understand these tricks and these manipulations. It's so obvious that he's doing this. It is. It's so obvious. And anybody who's been involved with any bullshit like this knows that.
We found additional documentation that shows where there were separate sets of books and spreadsheets being kept between, or from the former franchisee. And so as those things have come to light, we've tried to share those with Mr. Mansell in hopes that he can see, that we were not attempting in any way, shape, or form to withhold anything that we could verify, and that we do want to help him recover as much of the collection. Now, the initial number...
This is a lie. They're lying. I think that they're technically telling the truth, but they're lying in the spirit of the truth. So they want to do that now, and they have done this now. But prior to the video and the controversy, I do not think this is what they were trying to do. And I think that to the extent that it was what they were attempting to try to do, or appearing to try to do, they only simply did that to basically get this guy to lay off.
Was promotional, but the actual factual information shows that the value of the more realistic value of the collection was closer to about $100,000, which is what the documentation that we've been able to determine that both parties to that consignment agreement kind of had an understanding between.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. First of all, he uses a lot of corporate weasel words or like indicators. Corporate people love their indicators. Oh, the indicators and this and that. He threw documentation in there as well. But then he goes and tries to make this whole point about the number. Okay, it's really 100,000, not 200,000. Okay, listen. Reckless Ben is a YouTuber, and I'm going to tell you something as a fellow YouTuber out there. And also, if you just look at the news is always going to use the biggest possible number. When I cover a case that, let's say, involves a criminal act, right?
You're going to look at the ceiling of the settlement.
Let's say a punishment between 5 and 10 years. So it is not deceptive to put that this could be up to 10 years, even if that person ends up getting sentenced for 5 or maybe getting probation, right? It's not deceptive, but that's the way the news is. The news puffs things up. We on YouTube puff things up too. That's how things go. But at this point, they're honestly, for the company, on a corporate basis, there is not a big difference between 200K and 100K in terms of how much damage you've taken from PR, bad press, etc. Right? This is a situation where you shouldn't be crying and whining and trying to point out and nickel and dime. Also, with valuation of items, we know that things can swing wildly. I used to play Magic the Gathering back in the...
He's right about this, is that people, they could also be using and framing the valuations off of a lower valuation, right? For example, a more damaged set or a lower tier set, or using a different website that had different pricing. There are like multiple ways that you could do that.
day, and we all know that cards can have a mint value and they can have a used value. So trying to argue,
like PGA 10 versus a used like card, right? Like a Black Lotus, PGA 10, which is like PGA is like the card grading service, is like worth however many like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But like just an average Black Lotus that was from the exact same set that's been played with a PSA 10, PSA, not PGA, that's fucking golf, PSA 10. And so PSA 10, but like if you just have one that's like a regular card, that might only be worth, like less than $100,000. And so like you can look at what their indicators are and then reframe the conversation around that. You see what I'm saying?
That is really, really splitting hairs. I think it's unnecessary pettiness that they're trying to inject here, and I don't think it's appropriate.
Each other that was the actual real value.
So you dipped a bit into this new statement, and this concerns the previous owner of the franchise on the Kaiser branch. So tell me a little bit about what you guys found.
So, our franchise operates on the buy, sell, trade model for Lego. We love Lego and everything that it stands for, and so. But we know that consignment agreements can be very difficult, and so we make sure that in our operations manual, through all of our training, we train all franchisees that...
He's reframing it to where he's placing blame on the franchisees by looking at the third-party training in order to assign the blame to the franchisees through the implication that the franchisees didn't have the training. That's what he's trying to do.
Consignment is not part of our model. It's written into the operations manual. It's trained on. And it's very explicit. However, unfortunately, we had a franchisee go rogue and enter into a consignment agreement without our knowledge or authorization.
And this is where they're trying to move the buck. This is where they're trying to push it onto the franchise owner and say, well, we didn't authorize it, and therefore it's not good. Well, that doesn't mean you don't have a duty to now resolve the issue. That
it's like, you can't say like, well, because this person stole something. Like, for example, like if an employee of your company steals like $10,000 from a bank, and then they put the $10,000 from the bank in your store, you can't say, well, the police can't come in here and can't get the $10,000 because we didn't tell him to do that. You would still have to return the stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I mean, it's crazy that you could even use this argument. Because, like, if you apply this in any other scenario, you would realize how stupid it is.
This franchisee got into, right? The third party, the Mansells, aren't aware of the agreements between corporate and franchise. That's very, very common.
So dishonest.
And if they entered into this situation, well, then you need to go in here and rectify that, right? You need to go in there and act, because a person who's entering into an agreement with a franchise owner.
Because also, if you weren't doing that and now you have this stuff that you don't own, what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to throw it away? You're not going to throw it away because it's valuable. So you're going to sell it. Okay, so then you're selling something you don't own. Okay, that's a problem. I mean, it's so obvious. Like, nobody in good faith would ever make this argument.
Assume the franchise owner is acting in good faith, right?
Yeah,
most parties
exactly.
can assume. You say, okay, well, I assume you're acting in good faith. I assume you reviewed everything on your side of this deal.
Yes.
They have no way to know. The Mansells had no way to know what bricks and minifigs may or may not have in their contract with the franchise. And by the way, we don't even know if this is true or not. I haven't seen the full franchise contract between bricks and minifigs and the franchisee. I would love to see that franchise agreement, the full thing, the signed, executed copy, all of that. That would be great to actually see that, whether or not they're lying on this one. This is them trying to once again play that silly game between corporate and franchise, and it's not.
It wouldn't even matter. Even if everything that he says is true, it still wouldn't matter, because you're still holding property that you, by your own definition, do not own. You're saying, I don't own this property. So, like, if you don't own the property, then why don't you give it back? You're not doing that.
Going to work. You have to take responsibility.
And then it appears that may not have been honored with the person that she had entered into that consignment agreement with. And then through other circumstances, we ended up retaking over that store. And in the shuffle, there appears to have been just some confusion as to why.
Confusion? The guy literally said that he knew about it.
And where, like some of this came about. And as we tried to figure that out, we started uncovering more documents, more information.
And there we go, guys. Documents. It's always documents, right? But this is what you have to really pay attention. They're trying to pretend like they did all this work and discovered it. But we know that they had an instinctive reaction just to bury this. They had an instinctive reaction to trust people that were being dishonest, to not believe the Mansells, right? We know that's exactly.
Well, and it's also like, I don't think it's that simple because, what I've said before is that when personal interest and coincidence converge, it's almost never a coincidence. So how convenient for them that they happen to end up on the side of this that gives them a plus $200,000. Like the moment that I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you know what you're doing.
What happened? They weren't deeply searching their documentation at first. They were stonewalled.
It seems like bullshit.
That was exactly. And what we found was that there were 3 separate sets of records that were being kept that shows that Mr. Mansell was significantly underpaid by that former franchisee. And so we've been trying to make sure.
So they've confirmed it. They've essentially come out and confirmed that he was not paid what he should have been paid.
Exactly.
Thank you. It took so long for them to come out and frankly say, and look how even in this statement, he's so cowardly as to bury this deeper within the interview, right? To say he should have been paid this, he wasn't paid this. Come out up front and admit it. Come out and words like he was not paid, he should have been paid. This should have been made right. We're very sorry, right? But they're still trying to maintain this side of it, which I think is very disingenuous. I think that should have been something they should come out and make that apology to the Mansells and also the acknowledgement that they are indeed owed, just something that's front-loaded in the statement at this point to recover their PR. This is not doing a great job.
I don't think that,
recovering
personally, I don't think you can ever trust these people again. Like, I always look at apologies and capitulation from the perspective of power. If a person is apologizing and capitulating to you because they have a gun to their head, you shouldn't look at that and say that, wow, I guess they really learned their lesson. No, you should look at that and think to yourself, they're telling me what I want to hear, so I will take the gun away from them. Or I won't point the gun at them anymore. And nobody, by the way, should be pointing a gun anywhere, doing any of that, right? Any of this vigilante shit is stupid. All that being said, though, that's what it is. When people are in a weak position, they will appeal to your sympathies. It's very important to never give in to that because it's a form of manipulation that bad people do in order to continue not facing accountability for their bad behaviors. Never, ever, ever accept an apology from a person who has to apologize.
Their public image.
Sure that we can properly do like a forensic accounting and make sure everything is being looked at properly so that we can work together to get that family resolution.
And we, for our part, will reach out to those parties as well. You mentioned a couple terms I want to get.
Well, the news is obviously reaching out for a different reason than for conflict resolution, right? I like how the news is just a little side comment about the news. The news tries to say, "Oh, we're here to help." No, you're there for the drama too, guys. The news people are no better than the YouTubers. They like to think they are.
True.
But no better.
Into that the franchisee agreement was not honored. Does that mean you're saying Mr. Mansell was underpaid by the franchisee?
From what we can tell, yes.
See, see how the news had to push him to even give a clear answer there. He dodged that. He tried to. He tried a little weasel jerk there. It didn't really work, so they had to call him out to be very clear. No, this person was wronged. You're saying that, right? That's almost like a lawyer with a deposition, right? But he was trying to avoid that. They've been trying to avoid that up until today. This is why this is such a game changer, and it's why it's so important. And also, if you guys haven't liked this video and subscribed, make sure you're subscribed and like the video. It helps out in the algorithm.
The documentation that we've been able to pull out from a couple of different sources indicates that more sets were sold than were reported to him, and from that unauthorized consignment agreement, but that.
So that actually gets Ben.
What would a business do? Like if you knew that you had a bunch of inventory on hand that you didn't own accidentally based off of a bullshit consignment based off of a previous franchisee. If you're a CEO, what would you do? This is what I would do. I would immediately go through all of the paperwork and then separate all of the things that were inside of that paperwork outside of my base inventory, so I had a better idea how to restock the store. Any logical person would do that. Any person operating in good faith with their best interest of trying to return the merchandise would immediately do that, because it's just common sense. Obviously, you would do that.
Of a lot of trouble here, because Ben,
how could you make plans for your inventory if you had all this extra stuff in there?
Theft, is that appropriate or not? Well, there you go. If, as they're saying, as he's saying right now, more sets were sold than were reported back, that's theft right there. They're essentially, that's conversion, right? They're taking something, and it's also a breach of contract and unjust enrichment, right? In terms of civil claims, right? So definitely unjust enrichment, breach of contract. But colloquially, the way that most normal people would talk about that, they could say, yeah, they're essentially stealing from him because they owe him this money. They were not paying for it. They were selling things and either not paying him or not giving him what he was owed.
Exactly.
That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong, morally and legally.
Yes.
The overall payments to him did not match what had been sold through the store under the previous franchisee.
Okay.
Boom.
I go this route.
Boom. You got it right there. Now, one last thing I want to bring up in this, because he does bring this up at the end after this concludes, is he does bring up the concept of suing Ben. And he does say that they are looking at potentially suing Ben also.
Oh, my God. Good luck.
I do believe they may be still working with law enforcement. And I will say this, and this is something that I will comment on to CEO Eamon McNeff of all of Bricks and Minifigs. It would not be smart to sue him. I think that would be absolutely stupid to do that. People on the internet will cover it. It will not look good. I will certainly cover it. And that will not look good for you guys. People will be absolutely dragging you on this for going after this guy hardcore and going after him with federal charges. I think going after him.
Well, especially the thing is also, this is what's really important about this, is that there's already literal video evidence of the CEO and the former franchise owner conspiring with the police on how they can make up and invent charges to basically send Ben to jail. So really, I mean, I don't think that there should never be any level of surrender or anything. I'm surprised they haven't backed down after this amount of negative exposure and feedback. These motherfuckers are famous now. They already sued him now, so it's too late. Yeah. Not from the U.S., but can Ben sue the police? Probably. I don't know. I hope the CEO does it so he can dig his own grave. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any way he comes out of this.
Calling up the feds.
There's no
hopefully
way
not trying to use any of your Mormon FBI connections for all the glowies and feds in the chat. I know you're out there, right? Joking with you guys, but there are feds out there. Watch the chat. Seriously, though, pressing any federal charges, getting the FBI involved, I don't think it's going to be a good look. I don't think it's going to be smart. I don't think it's going to make Bricks and Minifigs look good. I think getting these. I
think that if they start doing that, we should look at potentially trying to pressure Lego into intervening with this, because this store is effectively enabled by Lego, and this is damaging Lego's brand. Lego now is inside and in the middle of a massive controversy that puts their products that they've been making for, decades now, basically on the side of literal liars and scammers. It's a very, very bad look. And I think that if they continue doing that, I think that's the next step. Because, as I said, there's never, again, you can never listen to what these people say and then think to yourself, oh, okay, they understand what they did wrong. If they understood what they did wrong, they wouldn't have done it. Everybody knew not to do that. Everybody knows not to do this. I don't agree with you on that. You don't agree with me? Why? You don't think this negatively affects Lego's brand whenever they have a massive controversy where a bunch of Legos are stolen? How would that not negatively affect Lego's brand? I think it's very obvious. Like it's awful. Like it's literally like their products are being used as a scam, basically, by a company that they're selling to. This is like their direct partner. Like Bricks and Minifigs is probably directly connected to Lego. Counterpoint, it may not make other companies want to carry Lego if they get directly that involved. Yeah, well, I mean, like, again, I think that it would set a precedent. For example, Wizards of the Coast wants to shut down a store because they have the wrong politics. They do that already. They do that already. What do you even talk? You're talking about a precedent. You're trying to establish a precedent with some people that if they would do that, for example, they're going to do that no matter what. This isn't politics. Like, and also, by the way, I think that for you to draw like some distinction between like, you know, somebody's gender politics versus a literal crime of hundreds of thousands of dollars and the police being involved, felonies being involved, like this is a mountain versus a molehill. Like, I mean, you can't even say that. And also, by the way, I'm sure Wizards of the Coast has those agreements with their franchisees and with their distributors. They probably have those. Do you really think that they don't have anything like that? Do you think that, for example, Wizards of the Coast would be okay if somebody was selling Nazi memorabilia next to Magic the Gathering? Of course they wouldn't. We all know this. We know they would shut that down. So why not? Why are we inventing these fake precedent problems when we know that they would act on this regardless of a precedent or not? People worry so much about a precedent that they don't even think about what makes sense. Obviously, people, like anybody can take anything and interpret it in a bad way that's bad faith.
Settled, getting these things resolved, getting this thing ended is probably for the best for everybody. Trying to go back and destroy Reckless Ben, I don't think that's going to profit Bricks and Minifigs at all. I think it'd be very stupid for their PR. So that's their statement. They're still, I don't think, coming out and apologizing enough. I don't think they're being clear. I don't think they're also saying, yes, this person was wrong. They're clearly waving the white flag, though. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.
Man, that was a good video. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Andrew said. And honestly, I would go a lot farther. How far in Bricks and Mortar? First video book that today? This is the first one. Yeah, I think this is the main update that's happened, right? I never saw that interview, and this is the first time I'm seeing it right now. I'm crazy for not giving a fuck about Lego. Well, again, it's not about the Legos. It's about the money that the Legos are worth. I have no interest. Like, I know nobody really cares about a Lego set. Who cares about a Lego set? But it's about what's happening with the Lego set. That's the problem. It doesn't matter whether it's Warhammer figurines, gold bars, or computers. If you have things that are being stolen and then taken from a person who owns them and then resold and then taken away from them, rightfully so, or unrightfully so, the rightful owner taken away from rightful owner, that's a problem fundamentally, right? It's not about Legos. Like, let's not try to, like, you know, make the argument of triviality about, oh, I don't care about Legos. It's not about Legos. It has nothing to do with Legos. There's blood in the water now. Go for the final strike on Bam and the police. I think you always should. You always should, because you never give people like this because they're also trying to sue YouTubers. They're trying to shut other people down. They're trying to weaponize the law in every single way that they possibly can so they can avoid accountability from effectively allowing one of their franchisees to basically scam somebody out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, and then also, like, and this is the worst part about it, like, the scam is really bad. But what's even worse than that is the fact that they conspired with the police to manifest fake charges on different people that were trying to hold them accountable for it and then have them put in jail. Like, do you understand how much a felony and being put in jail for multiple years can just totally ruin your life? That can destroy your life, not to mention the trauma that it would give you and the process of having it happen. Like, it would totally destroy you. So the fact that they were willing to do that is something that I don't think can be forgiven. I don't think anybody should ever forgive them. That's the way I feel about it. You don't do that. Nobody does that unless they are fucking evil. And never listen to, oh, well, you know, they understand what they did wrong. They get it. No, they don't. They do not get it. They do not understand. That's it. They are simply doing and saying whatever they can possibly do and say. That's it.